Have you ever wondered if animals can feel joy? I mean, not just being content, but that pure electric feeling of excitement? Well, a really fascinating scientific thesis suggests that rats might actually laugh, and that by decoding that laughter, we can uncover a fundamental code in the brain for reward and motivation itself.
But that right away brings up a huge question for scientists. You can't just ask a rat how it's feeling, right? So how do you get a reliable, objective measure of a positive emotional state? For years, researchers have been listening, and I mean really listening, for an answer.
And it turns out rats are talking all the time, just at a frequency that's way too high for us to hear. They basically have two main calls. There's a low-frequency 22 kilohertz call that's kind of like a cry. It's associated with distress. But then there's a high-frequency 50 kilohertz chirp. And this is their signal for a positive state, their sound of joy. We're just going to call it what it sounds like: rat laughter.
So, this sound is our key. To really understand what makes a rat happy, we first have to understand what this sound of happiness truly means.
This entire investigation is grounded in the amazing master's thesis of John Benson Walke. He designed a whole series of experiments to precisely decode the meaning behind these 50 kilohertz calls.
So when do rats actually make this happy sound? Well, researchers have documented it in all the best situations: during playful roughhousing, when they're excited for a friend to show up, during mating, and when they're expecting a tasty treat. And get this, scientists have even found that rats make these calls when they're tickled. So yeah, this is not just some random noise. It's clearly tied to positive experiences.
Now, to really test the limits of this laughter, Walke's experiment needed a super reliable way to create that positive state on demand. So the researchers turned to two really powerful types of rewards. On the one hand, you've got a classic natural reward, a sweet little sugar pellet for a hungry rat. Simple, effective. But then, on the other hand, you have the ultimate reward. This is where they bypass the senses entirely and directly stimulate the medial forebrain bundle. It's like a superhighway of pleasure neurons deep in the brain's reward circuit. Rats find this so rewarding, they will literally choose it over food or anything else. Okay, so the first experiment using that direct brain stimulation immediately revealed a critical clue. See, the key wasn't just if the rats laughed. It was all about when. Just look at what the data shows here. The rats weren't vocalizing much after the reward. Instead, check this out. The calls spike like crazy in the seconds leading up to it. As you can see, the closer they got to that reward, from 20 seconds out to 10 to just 5 seconds away, the more laughter they produced. This is a sound of pure anticipation.
And this right here perfectly illustrates the core finding. As Walke states in his thesis, the results are crystal clear. These calls are a powerful signal of a rat anticipating that something good is about to happen. So the big takeaway here is that the joy seems to be all about the waiting.
But just when it seemed like the code was cracked, a second experiment produced a result that was completely unexpected, a deep and profound mystery.
In this next phase, the researchers used a classic conditioning trick. They introduced a new signal. A simple LED light would turn on for 8 seconds, reliably predicting that the brain stimulation was coming right after it turned off. And the rats, well, they caught on to what this light meant really fast.
Let's just walk through this timeline. First, the LED cue comes on. The rats know the reward is coming, and they start chirping like crazy. Next, the ultimate reward is delivered, that direct brain stimulation. But look at what happens in the final step. In the moments immediately after the reward, absolute total silence.
0. That's the number of calls recorded in the 8 seconds after the reward. Not a single one. The laughter had completely vanished at the exact moment you'd expect it to be the absolute loudest.
This is the puzzle. Why? Why would a sound that signals joy and positive feelings completely disappear at the peak moment of pleasure? It seems to defy all logic. What was really going on inside that rat's brain?
Well, the answer to the puzzle lies in the fascinating neuroscience of a chemical you've probably heard of, dopamine, and, more importantly, how our brain uses it to predict the future.
The key concept is called reward prediction error. Now, that might sound complicated, but it's really not. Just think of it as the brain's surprise signal. It's not about how good a reward is, it's about how much better it is than what you predicted. If you expect $5 and you get 100, you get a huge dopamine burst. But if you expect 100 and you get 100, well, there's no surprise, and so no burst.
So, here's how it all connects. When that LED light turns on, The rat's brain predicts a reward, and its dopamine system fires up, signaling, "I want this." That wanting signal is what drives all those 50 kilohertz calls. Then, the brain stimulation arrives exactly as the light predicted. The expectation perfectly matches the reality. That reward prediction error is zero. There's no surprise. So that dopamine wanting signal just stops. And as a result, the calls stop instantly.
And this is the crucial takeaway. The rat's laughter isn't the sound of liking or enjoying the reward itself. It's the sound of wanting, that thrilling, dopamine-fueled anticipation of a reward that's about to come. It's the sound of the chase, not the prize.
So why does all this matter? Well, it gives scientists a powerful tool to measure positive motivation in animals and a beautiful model for how the brain's dopamine system drives learning. But most importantly, it has huge implications for us. This helps us understand human conditions where this wanting system goes wrong, like in depression, where that anticipation of reward just fades away, or in addiction, where the wanting becomes this overwhelming, pathological craving. Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder. If the most vocal expression of joy in a rat comes not from getting the prize, but from the excitement of knowing it's on its way, what does that say about where we find our own happiness?